Welcome back to the American Dream Podcast. This week, Eneida Roman joins us on the show. Eneida is the co-founder turned CEO of AmplifyLatinx. They are a nonpartisan collaborative convener advancing Latino leadership representation, economic prosperity, and civic engagement. Today, we talk about what led Eneida to create AmplifyLatinx, why she made the switch from practicing lawyer to CEO, and what AmplifyLatinx is focused on right now to open more doors for all Latinos. And there's a special surprise of my connection with AmplifyLatinx. Please listen to the show. Welcome to the show, Eneida.
Gracias. Thank you, Elias.
I think Amplify Latinx has a special place in my heart, and I'll tell you a little bit about it in a second. But first, tell us a little bit more about Eneida.
Of course. Well, Eneida Roman, born and raised in San Juan, Puerto Rico. When I was in college, I studied organizational psychology. I went to undergrad and graduate school in Puerto Rico. And then I said, you know what? Let me combine this with something else. So then I decided to go to law school. And that's when I made the jump to Boston with the idea that I was going back to Puerto Rico because all my family's there. That's all I knew my entire life. But I fell in love with Boston. I was like, this is a really cool city. And it was close enough to Puerto Rico that I felt like, I could take a direct flight back home and not a problem. And then all of a sudden, 25 years later, I was still here.
Wow.
So, it's my second home. I married a Bostonian, and and I'm happy. I love it because I
Americano,
can still get back.
americano.
Americano, sí.
Wow, americano, sí.
Yeah, good guy, good guy. He loves, but he loves everything Latin. He thinks he's Latin. I'm like, no, you're not, but okay.
Yeah, no, you're not. But we welcome you. We welcome you.
But we welcome you. We welcome you with open arms,
Yeah,
And
you're like
he loves
nice. Yeah,
exactly. Just like I'm not, but I'm Bostonian, but I'm not,
you know,
So,
you know.
and I love Boston. And my parents are still waiting for me, but then what they do is they come visit. In fact, my mom is visiting right now. But in any case, I started a career in law here in Boston. And of course, I always applied the organizational psychology background because it's incredibly useful for everything in life. And so as I started as a young attorney, I felt that it was somewhat alienating, right? Because when you come from a place where everybody's like you, and like everybody speaks the language, everybody, like you're not a minority, you're just like everybody else. But then I moved to Boston, and I felt like there were not a lot of people like me. Um, I just had this hunger, this craving for community, right? And so I approached a colleague that that was in my same space as a young attorney, and I proposed this idea that that I had when I was with other Latina attorneys at the national level through the Hispanic National Bar Association back in the early mid 2000s. Um, I I was involved with the Hispanic National Bar Association, and the Hispanic National Bar Association commissioned a study around Latinas in the law, very similar to the American Bar Association. The American Bar Association has the Commission for Women in the Law, and so the HNBA, the Hispanic National Bar Association, created the Latina Commission, and so I was appointed as the commissioner. And the study basically demonstrated a few, basic tenets around Latinas in the law. First, we are few and far between because only 2% of all attorneys are Latinas. So we need more Latinas in the profession, especially given that demographics are shifting significantly, right? And then also it addressed the cultural issues and how in our culture Latinas are expected to do so much for their families but also are expected to succeed professionally. And last but not least, it addressed the need to make sure that we had champions and mentors within our own community. And so using those recommendations, we figured that we would launch something in Boston, but not just dedicated to Latina attorneys, because if it was only Latina attorneys, it would be like, five of us, right? So, I mean, I'm joking. There are more of us,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it would have been a very small group. So we decided to broaden the pool of people that we included, and we included all Latina professionals that we knew in Boston. But we wanted to make it a very intimate experience, so we tested with an initial group of approximately 50 women. And what we did is that we invited them, and we said, "You're a woman on the go. Bring a woman on the rise." Right? Because it's the mentoring component was very important to us. It's not just about us, championing each other and sharing best practices, but also bringing up the next generation of Latinas, because we know
Yeah.
our community is a young community, and we can't forget about the next generation. We wanted to make that a core element of the work that we did. And I'm proud that's what we've always focused on, right? Like lifting up the generation of leaders, but also looking at the next generation and making sure that they're included in the equation.
Right, right. No, I love that a lot. But you're saying that that is what started Amplify Latinx?
Yes,
Jeez,
yes,
that's what I want to
yes.
know. Okay. Wow.
Betty and I are co-founders. And so we had hired, I mean, we were both practicing law. So, we were both like, all right, we're going to hire somebody. We stay in our jobs, and we focus on the work that we do. I was running my own firm. She was working with Sports Club LA. And then she went to work with a nonprofit. We were both like, no, yeah, no, no, other people can do this job. You're like, we have our jobs, we're lawyers. Then last year, our inaugural executive director, she took another job closer to home, and I was chairing the board at the time. And as you probably know, if you're chairing a board, like you kind of have to dive in, because I was like, okay, we have obligations, right? We have
Yeah.
we have grants that we need to fulfill and whatnot. And I hired individuals who were supporting this transition and this search for new leadership. And one day, and I kept on obviously, running my firm, and my doing my work, my law practice. And one day the executive committee approached me, and they were like, oh, like, what do you think? And I was like, well, we're looking for somebody. And they were like, well, I think you would be really good at this. And I was like, I know I have passion for this, but this is not my job, right? Like for some reason, I always saw myself as a co-founder, and as a board member, but not as an employee. And other people had actually also approached me and asked me the same, like, listen, you've really stepped into this role, and I mean, you should really think about this. And I swear, Elias, I was like, no, like, I'm gonna find somebody else, like, it's okay, because I know how much work it is. I mean, I know it's a very, we are very ambitious in our goals and our aspirations, and the work and the commitment that we have, right? So I just saw myself as continuing to steward the board, and and help with the fundraising and all of that. And they were like, it's very similar, like, just think about it, right? And so I spoke to my husband, and I said, like, they're thinking that I should do this. And you're like, what do you think? Because my identity has been tied to law for so long that I just didn't see myself
Right.
doing something else, right? And he was like, why not? Like, this is your baby, like, you love it. Like, because I always kind of, I was never too visible, because I was so busy doing my law work, that I was never very visible outwardly. Internally, I did a lot of work, but it takes a lot of time to be out there and promoting and whatnot, right? So people that knew that I was engaged,
Yep.
and people that knew the organization, but the outside world didn't really know. And it's because, really, honestly, I just didn't have the time to be out there as much, because I was busy doing other things. And so anyway, so I said, well, you think, that would be okay? He was like, do it, just do it. And then funny enough, he's like, well, now at least you'll get paid. he knew the endless hours, right, that I spent working on making sure that Amplify grew. And, here we are, and so Elias, I am so happy I did this because I've never been happier. I mean, not that I didn't love, practicing law, because I chose careers of service. And, and in my law practice, I always focused on helping others and supporting people that, were underserved and whatnot. But, this is just, I mean, this is my calling, like, I'm so happy I did this. And, and here we are.
I love that. I mean, like, I think that is very special, right? I really enjoy that compared to like I'm a C level this, I'm a CEO, I founded this, I did that, to someone to say this is my calling, right? I am so happy I did this. It's such a blessing. Uh,
Amen.
Especially, I love that, right? I think I might sound stereotypical, but you Latino, Latina choosing and saying uh, we love service, right? It's a common thing. We want to serve our community, right? Latinos especially, and
Yeah.
that's something that I'm working at USF to create a combined major program, because the problem, right, is that we end up in professions of service, but they're not as well paid, right? Lawyer is the better one, right? Because you're like,
Yeah.
I just want to help people, right? And so
Yeah.
um, combine that with computer science and other things to increase, right? Because the problem is when we
Yes.
have social worker, when we have teaching, when we have nursing, when we have all those things, right? It's like we end up and that creates that economic gap, right?
Yeah.
In the incomes and the jobs
Yeah.
for Latinos. So I think you were so smart. You did law, but then in the end, you're going back to what you wanted, right? Maybe in the first place, you didn't know the place, but you created the place, right? And he was there waiting for you.
Yes. Yes. Well, that's the thing. That's what's so beautiful about this because, I created, well, first of all, you said something very special, right? Because I could have gone back home where I was just like everyone else, and I said, you know what? I feel like what I have to offer is more needed here than back home,
Yep.
right? And so I at first I was like, I want to work here because I want to be able to serve, the community because I see that gap, right? Like there's not enough Spanish speaking, attorneys who culturally understand the nuances of the community, right?
Yeah.
And so, and that is what drove me, right? Initially. And then I joined this community, this national community of attorneys, and I discovered this research, right? That is geared towards women in my position. And I said, and I still had that need for community, right? So I, like you said, we built it. We built this community that all of a sudden expanded into something much bigger than we ever anticipated. Because at first it was about executive leadership, and then to your point, we were approached by some people, specifically a philanthropist here in Boston, who said, ladies, this is great that you're doing this, but we need more. Like Latinos need to be more civically engaged. Latinos, we're not paying attention to the economic inequities. And then I don't know if you remember, like around that time, around 2015, the Federal Reserve had come out with the color of money, the study of the color of money, and we had been talking about it, right? And the city of Boston was offering salary negotiation workshops, and and so we were providing those to the women in our network. But then 2016 was a different year, right? Because we felt that Latinos were under attack in many ways, in the national rhetoric during the election cycle. And we said, we've got to do more because we know that economic power, if you will, and economic opportunity is tied
Yeah.
to civic engagement. It's tied to so many other elements. There's intersectionality, between access and opportunity and civic engagement. And so that is how Amplify was born in
Wow.
2017, because in 2016 the idea was presented to us, and so we launched our inaugural convening at the EMK Center, which is, the Edward Kennedy Center for Politics and Policy, where there's a replica of the Senate floor, right? And so how powerful to bring together, you know, 300 Latinos in this space where people are like, "Oh my God, this is the seat of power. This is a replica of the seat of power." And how incredible would it be if we amplify each other in this way, right? And that's how we actually met you, right? Because then the following year we hosted as a small business summit, a business summit. Not at that point, we call it small business, but at that point it was a business summit, and we wanted to elevate stories like yours, right? Because what you've done is extraordinary, and so it's all about making sure that we're sharing those stories so that we inspire the next generation of leaders to come up the ranks, to see themselves in you and in others, so that they say, you know what, Elias did it, I can do it, right? Because he looks like me.
I mean, I think that's what I was going to say. I don't know if you know this, right? But I just Googled that talk. I remember it clearly. It was, I think I might have said the story before here, but like when I started working with David Cancel, Puerto Rican, Ecuadorian, we started working together around 2008. I quit IBM after 10 years. And the day after I quit, like the week after, the recession hits, the crash. And then and I'm like working at a 10-person startup with David. Uh, 3 kids at home and my wife, and it was just crazy. That was the beginning of my entrepreneurial career. And so I think that when I met him and when we started a company called Performable, I went to a conference. And when I went to that conference, I'm out there being a Latino social butterfly talking to everybody. And then I'm like, I'm a founder of a company, like that. But I have done nothing. I have no money. I have no success. I don't know anything. I'm just like barely an engineer. And they start calling him and they're like, who's this guy? You're starting a company with this guy? What, is it health? What's happening? And he calls me and he's like, listen, listen, are you going to work or you're going to be out there being a social butterfly in conferences, doing nothing, right? And I was just like, I'm not working. No, work or conferences. So like that was in 2009. So I never went to a conference ever again, right?
Oh my
And
God.
so when you guys came knocking at the door at Drift and they're like, we need you to attend this thing. And I'm like, no, no, no. And it's like, I am heads down. I work. I don't go to these things. I don't go to these things. And I've been mostly in a white world, right? My entire time in Boston and in tech, and I don't notice. I forget I'm Latino. But that day in that green room was kind of like an epiphany for me because all of you were in that room, all the speakers, and it's like, so when you're going back to Puerto Rico, and when have you been, and so, and like it's like we're going to the Dominican, and blah blah blah, and we're going to Miami, and I'm just like, and I'm like, I that warmth. I'm telling you, I was frozen. It was that day in that green room. It was that trailer in Government Center, and I was
Yes.
like, what is this? This is like, because I go to Florida with my family, my wife's family, like once a year. So I get all my Latino-ness like in one day, New Year's Eve, Christmas type of thing. And I'm like,
Uh,
what what is this? And everybody just mwah, mwah, kissing each other, hugging, and I'm just like, this. I never go and talk at a place like this. And so it was a huge awakening for me that day, right? And lo and behold, right, I gave that little speech about um, the marathon and the 4-minute mile break in it, right? And that the once you see somebody, and it's cliche, but it's like I still think it's the most impactful thing that we can do. You said it, right? Is like show people what you've done, and it inspires people we're copycats, like we're really we're really the humankind. Humanity is just like we're like monkey see monkey do, and it is important to show that it's possible. And from that day on, I looked it up on Google. I think it was uploaded 4 years ago, right? It only
Yeah, it was
four. It's just so it's 19.
2018, 2018.
18. Okay.
Yeah, it was the fall of 2018.
It was the fall. Yeah, I gotta remember because because that's the moment I started waking up and being like, oh, Latinos need help, right? Because I was just like just swimming and just trying to stay afloat, and a lot has changed since then. For me, and it has started me on this path of figuring out how to help the community while I still do my thing, But what you're saying might foreshadow who I become, that I will leave what I'm doing, from a business perspective and turn that into it, which I'm doing a lot of stuff to plant those, to create that foundation for me, you know.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that
Yeah.
you're saying that I'm paying attention, right? Of what is the organization that we need as Latinos to help our community? Yeah.
Absolutely, Elias, because, well, and going back to 2018 and just, you probably remember that we not only did you feel that warmth from us in the trailer in the green room, but also, then in the audience, right? Like, I mean, there were tears, like it was just very heartfelt. And I'm not saying tears to be overly dramatic. It was just like, the stories of resilience and the stories of grit and of strength, right? um were just so palpable, and the energy in the room was just extraordinary. And I don't know if you remember, after we went outside, we had a lechon.
Yeah, yeah,
It was like something that they had never seen.
yeah. No, no, the food was
And
unreal.
the music, and we got invited the following year, of course, because they were like, you guys are unique, right? And so, of course, in 2019 we were at the seaport. This year, speaking, fast forward to 2024 now, right? What do we need? Well, you know what we're doing this year? We're not just having the business summit, we're also having an expo, because we need to showcase the Latino business owners who are killing it, who are doing amazing work, but not everybody knows. And we don't want people to say, where are they? Where are they? I mean, they're right here, just like with the talent, right? Because we work at the intersection of leadership representation, at economic mobility, and policy advocacy and research, right? Because we want to make sure that we back up everything we do with research, and when we're advocating for policy solutions that close opportunity gaps, whether it's for leadership or for economic mobility, that that nobody can ever say that we're making up this information, right? Because there's
Yeah,
plenty of data out there. We conduct our own research, but there's also plenty of data out there that demonstrates that Latinos are the fastest, it's the fastest growing demographic, and Latinos are also starting businesses at a faster rate, right?
yeah,
And there's a lot of innovation. There's a lot of innovation in our community. So why not showcase it, and why not make sure that we are normalizing the fact that the Latino community is a part of the fabric of this nation, right? Is an integral part of the fabric of this nation, and that Latino progress and prosperity is American prosperity, right? I mean, we're no different. I mean, we're part of this nation. We've been part of this nation. In fact, I mean, Spanish is the oldest non-native language spoken in this land,
yeah,
spoken before English.
absolutely.
So, but those stories aren't told. And it's important that we normalize the fact
Yeah,
that that Latinos are here to stay and are here to contribute. Latinos are not takers. Latinos are givers. You said it earlier, right? We're
yeah,
we're about service, right? But how do we close those opportunity gaps so that there's more wealth in the Latino community, and so that there are more Latinos in spaces like you and me, right? Because we're the lucky ones.
yeah.
We're the ones that get to be in spaces where we have the opportunity to open doors for others. And so that's what we're doing.
No, I agree. I think that when I hear the word government, my eyes just like glass over. I'm just like, what? No, I don't like it. I don't want to deal with it. It's too slow. But we need you, right? Because there is policy that affects us negatively, and somebody has to fight that fight. and we have to figure out. And it's just a big systemic problem that we have. And in my heart, like my soul hurts. It just keeps growing on me, the pain of what Latinos have to go through, and the discrimination or the inequality of access to opportunities and wealth building chances, right? It it pains me. It's something that is changing me. I'm telling you. Every time I get to be in very privileged places, and I'm going around the country and the world, and I see people all the time, and I'm just like, one day is gonna be a Latino in that seat. I get to meet people of all kinds, and I'll say something silly, right? But I was with Jack Nicklaus, right, the greatest golfer there ever was, right? And I'm watching him speak, and I met him. I spent a little bit of time with him. I was at a PGA Tour event. I spoke at a conference in Los Cabos last week, and
Nice.
and I look at him, right, and my mind, my immediately my soul says, kind of like we have a Serena, right? Kind of like, we have different representatives in different sports that just were inaccessible to us, right? Because of the finances, right? Um, I look at Jack, I look at golf, and I'm like, one day we're gonna have somebody like, worship. Everybody there was worshiping the audience. This man that accomplished so much, but why is not going to be like a Latino golfer? So I just, wherever I go, I just see like a Latino artist, a Latino CEO, a Latino lawyer, a Latino entrepreneur, a Latino this, a Latino that.
The opportunity.
It's like,
Yes.
and so like what I'm trying to think when you said that at the bar association and you brought the executives together here is like, it's like we need a way to like people commit it and say like, I don't know, pick five major um, practices, right? And get law, medicine, tech, this, and just create organizations and chapters throughout the United States where they say, like, well, five Latina lawyers are going to go make another five Latino lawyers, right? I don't know, like something like that, right? That says, let's go into our communities, let's reach out and let's say to the kids, like, look at me. What do you want to do? Look at this, look at us, look at this five people. Pick one.
Exactly.
Because you
Exactly.
just need to put people in those places and say, they'll be fine, but they just need to know that path exists and their support they have. I went to
Yep.
University of South Florida. Her name is Donna Perino. She came to the high school. I forget how it was, but it was USF Latino scholarship, and I felt, wow, this is my people, and they're gonna help me. I'm gonna go to college. They're gonna pay for my college.
Yeah.
And there
Yeah.
was a bank called First Union Bank, became Wachovia, that was one of the sponsors of my scholarship, right? And then I went and met the president of that bank, and she was like, welcome into her office, and like a meet and greet, like I met the president of the Bank for Florida for First Union. She was a black woman, and she was just like, we're sponsoring you. You know what I mean? And I was like, um she was black. She was probably Panamanian. I think she must have been Latina too, or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just blown away, right? By There was Donna, there was the president of the bank. They brought me in. You're gonna go to college, do your thing, and
Love it.
I did the rest, right? So we need that, right?
And that's exactly what we were doing, at the Hispanic National Bar Association, because the commissioners, like we would travel to wherever the conferences were. So we had, two conferences a year, and then we had a legislative day in Washington D.C. So everywhere we went, we would come together and look for groups of little kids, of little girls, particularly, where we could visit and engage with the girls and talk about entering a career in the law. And so I was doing that at the national level. We're going to different cities across the nation. And then I said, I got to bring it back home, because I was very involved here with Big Brother, Big Sister in Boston. But it was not just Latino, and I felt like we need something like
Yeah.
this, right? And so that that is the genesis of who we are nowadays, right? And we want to stay true to that. Like there's
Yeah.
always a mentoring component to everything we do, because the reality is that our community is very young, and we need to make sure that the next generation is
Yeah.
lifted up and is elevated and is motivated to enter spaces that they belong, right, that they
Well, yeah.
feel that they belong.
The doors should be open, and we need to open the doors for them. And yeah, exactly. I'm a little of a pessimist in that it's hard to fix everything in the short term, right? I mean, I think I've been fortunate. Some people have highlighted to me like what I've been able to create in one generation of coming into this country myself, right? Setting foot here as a resident, as an alien, right? Um, it takes other people many generations, especially an average Latino takes they might 6 to 8 generations to accomplish what I've accomplished here. So I have to believe that it can be done shorter, but at the same time, I'm thinking of the next generation, right? I'm just thinking of like get them in college or right before college, right, and set them on a track and connect them to the right places. And that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out. I,
Yeah.
I think,
Well, well, yeah, I mean, I think, you just said it. I think the key is in having somebody opening doors for you and being at the right place at the right time with the right people, right? And I think part of the, of what we need to teach the next generation is like, don't be shy, go for opportunities, ask questions, volunteer,
yeah,
be part of this. Because I would have never been inspired to be in this space right now had I not volunteered
absolutely.
to be involved in with the Latina Commission, right?
Yeah.
And
I
in your case,
yeah,
you had people who opened doors for you, right?
yeah,
I had people who opened doors for me. And so it's about that awareness and that understanding of the importance of looking for opportunities and not just sitting there, and then once somebody opens a door for you, then you go back and open the door for somebody else, right? And so when we started, we used to always say, we want to lift as we climb, right? We want to make sure that we're bringing up the next generation, because it's great to have a certain level of access and opportunity, but then what about
yeah.
those that come behind us?
Lift as we climb, it just does not convey the entire weight of that phrase ever. I mean, you said it earlier, right? It's like, I mean, I'm just looking at the impact of what you've done and what you created and how it has affected my life. You know what I mean? To then start becoming, a life of service, right? It's the beginning of it. And it's just so powerful what you're doing, right? And I think that want to support what you're doing. I think this is amazing and unbelievable, right? I just think that sometimes we just, I don't know, it's like when we're in business, we're like, oh, community, oh, well, okay, let's do this, volunteer. And this is the most powerful thing that we can do. It's just volunteer with our time, with our resources, and we change one life at a time. But if everybody was doing it, this would be crazy. Yeah.
And also being intentional about it, right? Like, like it's not just volunteer to volunteer. It's like, what is the impact that this is going to have, right? And I mean, you're a perfect example. I mean, you've been incredibly successful, and now you're paying it forward.
Yeah.
Now you have your foundation. I mean, you support us, you support many other organizations, and and you're like opening doors, right? With your with the access that you've had in your life,
Yeah, exactly.
so and the opportunities that you've had, so that's what it's all about, right? Making sure that we're looking at the impact that our actions are going to have on on us, on those around us, and on and then kind of like in different circles, right?
Yeah.
And that's how we look at what we aim to accomplish, right? Like we want to make sure that we're advancing the next generation of Latino
Totally.
prosperity.
Eneida, thank you
That's
so much. This is just
yes, yes.
scratching the surface of what's possible, and I hope people are able to get and appreciate the value of community, right? And spending time and volunteering and give into this communities, because we need to build our community, make it stronger. Thank you so much for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Gracias.
And I'll see you soon.
Great to see you.
Thank you for listening to the American Dream Podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a new episode. And share the episode with your friends. Our work isn't done until everyone has equal access to their dreams.